Hello and welcome to Juicy Crimes. I have a very good friend of mine who also has a crime podcast, but you might remember her from the many times she's been on Juicy Scoop. We've been on the road together, the hilarious Tammy Pescatelli.
Hello, my beautiful friend.
And I'm so glad that you're here because I definitely want to talk about so you have a great podcast called The Cop and the Comedian, and one of your juicy crimes on your podcast, which I think is very juicy, that is stand-up related.
Yes.
Is about a male stand-up who is now doing a lot of time.
Yes, hopefully life.
For a very heinous crime. So let's get into it. Tell me a little bit about how you met this person and...
Okay, so this story was the onus for us doing The Cop and the Comedian.
Yeah.
Because I was talking to my best friend about it. Let me just start the story. The story is there was a very, very famous comedian in the late 90s, the winner of Star Search, a guy named Vincent Champ, not Vincent, Vinson Champ. He was an African-American man, very good looking, super funny. And one of the things that he would talk about is that his voice didn't sound African-American to whatever, stereotypes were popular back then. And he was just really charming and funny. And everybody loved this guy. And he was killing it. He was traveling all over the country and he was playing all these huge colleges. Well, one of the things in stand-up, as you know, is that comedy condos kind of ruled the day back then. If you aren't a big, huge comedian, you don't get a hotel. There's a headliner, a feature act, and an MC, and we live in condos.
And so just to explain, it's like the club will oftentimes own a condo.
That's right.
So
an Airbnb thing nowadays.
But they own it, so you have the choice to stay there, which is covered, but then you might be sharing the place with an opener, with or you're the feature or whatever. Or if you don't want to stay at the comedy condo, then they'll give you a small fee to go to a hotel.
But they didn't do that for feature acts or MCs back then. Maybe headliners, and not even all the headliners back then. In the 90s, you had to be huge to really stay in a hotel. Everybody stayed in the condos. Even some of the bigger names, you'd be shocked.
Yeah.
But we would show up, and it was really kind of a neat commune, for lack of a better term, for a week. You hung out with these people. You had camaraderie. We did shows Tuesday through Sunday. And one of the things is that I was a Midwest. I'm from Cleveland. When I was on the road, I didn't always get to come back to Cleveland because it was 7 or 8 hours. So you would stay in the condo the extra day, Monday, and it's just an apartment. It wasn't anything fancy.
Yeah.
You'd stay Monday and maybe go to the next place on Tuesday. Well, a lot of comedians could show up at the same place. And that was always kind of fun days off where you'd meet. And you didn't even know if you were going to meet because there was only just the condo phone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was no internet communication. So, and it's not up to me who stays. It's not my place. I'm lucky that I'm staying in a condo. I had played the Omaha Funny Bone, and I was staying there. And on Monday morning, I had nothing to do. I was moving on to Des Moines on Tuesday. The door opens, and there's Vince Champ. Now, I recognized him. He said, "Oh, I didn't know another comedian was staying." I said, "Well, yeah, I'm just staying today. I'm leaving tomorrow." He said, "Oh, well, I have a college to do tonight." I said, "Oh, okay, well, I'm going to the gym." And I went to the gym. And then I came back, and I think he was there. I saw him one more time. I was leaving to go see a movie by myself, and he was going to his gig. He actually played a college in Lincoln, Nebraska, and while he was there that night, he performed a heinous crime on a woman. I don't know how we can say this.
We can say it.
this.
It's juicy crimes. We can say. Yeah.
Well, he raped a woman, one of the many times that he apparently had been doing this. But that night, he did what he did to this woman, and then apparently he came back to the condo, and I slept in the room next to him. Now, I don't know that. I didn't see him. I didn't hear him. I was in bed. I didn't even hear a door slam. I got up the next morning and I left. So I don't know that this crime actually happened until months later. I see him again, and another place called the Quad Cities. It's in Moline, Illinois, Davenport, Iowa. And I'm playing the club, and he's playing a college, and he shows up at the condo. What are the odds? But I'm leaving that day. That day, thank God, I was leaving. And I said, oh, well, nice to see you again. And I left. Cut to 4 months later, I'm on stage, and this comedy club owner comes to me and says, come here, he's waiting on the side of the stage. And I'm afraid now that it's my act. Because you know how they treated us. Like, they treated us as if we were like prop acts back then. And this is a guy who notoriously would say to you, like the first time I worked for him, he said, do you want to be paid in cash or Coke? And I was like, I like Pepsi. Like, I'm a good Catholic girl. I don't know they's offering me drugs. I had no idea. And he later went on and did time himself.
He did? For what?
For drugs.
For the comedy owner?
Yeah, for drugs.
And what year is this again?
96, 97, we're around those times.
So you're like mid-20s. Yeah.
26, 27. Yeah. Still believing that you get what you put in, you know, that nice people are nice people and, you know, it's okay. Like still hopeful and I said, what? He said to me, he goes, cops are here to talk to you. Now, I thought it was a joke because Sopranos was huge at the time. Yeah. And people would always give me as an Italian, hey, the FBI wants to talk to you, whatever. You know, when you do something. I go, yeah. He goes, no, look. And there were like two people sitting at the bar, like waiting for me, like suits, right? And I walked over and they said, we'd really like to talk to you. They flashed me their badges and they were truly law enforcement. And they said, we'd like to talk to you. Would you mind sitting with us? And the guy said, well, the club is closing. Why don't you go with them? Which, by the way, now I know is one of the worst things that you should ever do. You should never leave and go with the cops to their place because now you're, you know, but I go,
what do you mean? Because then you're what? Vulnerable?
Well, then you're vulnerable. Like, just if someone's going to interrogate you over something or ask you a couple questions, the cop offers, they're your friends, okay, for the most part, as long as you haven't done anything wrong. I knew I hadn't done anything wrong, but I didn't know what this was about.
Right.
I should have just sat in the office at the comedy club and spoke to them. Not went by myself down to
So
the
did you
station.
go in the back of the cop car?
No, I drove myself.
Okay.
But I ended up in their building, in their interrogation room, or wherever
And you still don't
was.
know what it's about?
I don't know what it's about.
Okay.
So finally I get in, and I'm nervous. Like, I don't know what it's about. And they said, your boyfriend, they literally just go like this. Guy pushes back, and he goes, your boyfriend is a rapist. And I was like, what? He goes, he's a rapist, and you know it, and you're sick. And I was like, and then I was dating a guy who was a horrible guy. He cheated on, like, I knew he was cheating on me. I had that sick, twisted feeling. Yeah. And I found out later he was cheating on me. But I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't catch him because I was on the road, you know, so I could. And I thought, oh, my. And I started to just hysterically cry. I go, I thought he was cheating on me, but I didn't know he was a rapist. But I was thinking my boyfriend. Then they shoved the picture of Vince Champ at me. I said, wait, that's not my boyfriend. And they were like, what? Sure, it's not. I go, it's not my boyfriend. They were like, well, why would you stay with him in Omaha? And why would you stay, and why were you at the condo in the Quad? And I was like, what? This is comedy. Like, we stay in these places. This is what we do. So they had no idea that was the way that the comedy circuit worked, that you got kind of on a circuit, that you went around, but Vince apparently did not have permission to be staying in the condos that night.
Because it was earlier than his gig started.
Well, he wasn't supposed to be. He was at the colleges.
Right.
The colleges should have put him up. But he was so smart because the college usually would put you up at a hotel.
Yeah.
He didn't want anybody to track him. So he knew that the comedy condos were borderline flop houses on some of those off days. So he went there so they couldn't trace him. So I actually, after a couple hours, and they had to confirm it with one of the bookers, a woman named Sarah Nye, who not only started my comedy career, I used to book all the improvs, but she literally feel like she saved me that night from. He had done something to that woman. He had raped that woman, and he was a violent rapist with a knife. So then, from that point on,
You mean like held a knife to her throat or something?
yes, he would do these things. He'd go to the music room while they were playing the piano
At the
or
school.
whatever, and at the college, he would do his show, and then he would sneak over to the music, whatever the places that they, and he, while they were busy, and their backs were turned, he would sneak in. The other thing about him,
And then what? Wait till one girl was left, the last one closing
he
up
would
or
find
something?
somebody. There was always someone in a conservatory waiting. I mean, he got 3 or 4 of them like that.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is two-part, because for number one, not to make it about me, but I was devastated that this poor woman saved my life, because they told me at the time that he would have killed me, because those feelings, those urges that those people have don't go away. And you were right there, and he would have had to kill you, because
If you had known.
well, no, if he would have raped, he would have come to me. If she was the sacrifice, basically,
Oh.
that saved my life, because that rapey urge wouldn't have went anywhere if he wouldn't have found a victim there. He
The
knew
night of
he
the-
had one in the condo waiting. So I was hysterical for a number of years and silent, and then became like this crazy tough person carrying weapons, looking for, taking Krav Maga and really going crazy to protect myself. They ended up partially because of the interview that I did and explaining it, and then some amazing detective work back then, because they communicated with fax machines, these different police detectives, and put this story together that he had done 34 rapes. They interrogated him because he lived out in Los Angeles. He had a 17-year-old girlfriend, and
How old was he at the time?
34 or 36.
Wow.
He had beat her up, and her parents called the police.
The girlfriend.
The girlfriend. She was
Underage.
actually the underage girlfriend. And then he got into the police
System.
station and the system, and they were able to find him through that. But they let him walk out of the police station the first time they spoke to him, and he went on a cruise
Did you stand
to
up on the cruise?
entertain on the cruise. And when then they start putting this whole case together, and they can't find him because he's out for whatever extended amount. You got to remember how you couldn't communicate very well
Right.
in the late 90s? So all these things. So he got off the cruise in New Jersey somewhere, and they picked him up, and then he was convicted, and he's serving like
So they
life
so they
sentence.
had DNA.
They were one of the very first cases that ever used DNA for this specific purpose. And
So had he not attacked his girlfriend and been arrested, if he had a complete clean record, they had his DNA from the victims, then they wouldn't have been able to find him.
Yes.
Because if you're not in the system, especially back then.
Well, and also this one fabulous detective out of Wisconsin, this woman who, like, you have to look at the dynamic of this. This was a female detective in the late 90s who put this together of all of these places. Once we got the Condo story, then she started looking, okay, was there a comedian at the campus that night? Was there a comedy club around?
Oh.
And she started putting
All the
connecting
dots.
the dots. And then that's what put that together, and then circling around. Sometimes he'd be at one campus, and you know how colleges sometimes are next to each other? He'd go to another. He did the same thing the night that I wasn't staying with him, but in the Quad Cities. He attempted to rape one woman at one campus. He failed. He went and got another one. I mean, it just was a cluster of this guy just going so far and really being just a heinous, heinous human being. Now, when they convicted him, his convictions were not, they did a really good thing. They did not make them consecutively. Now we see that a lot. Someone gets convicted of a crime, they do their sentences consecutively, so they really don't end up doing that much time. They did not put it that way. Each state, Iowa convicted him, Wisconsin convicted him, and he did 17 years in one, and so this guy is supposed to not get out at all. He did come up from parole. Because he was like a model.
I wonder if he's like teaching like improv and comedy classes
Yeah,
there.
he's teaching. He's not teaching stand up. He's teaching public speaking to these guys.
Uh-huh.
He got his degree. He's fooling everybody. But his first time up for parole, the woman, and this is how it all comes full circle for me. The woman that he actually assaulted and pulled the crime on in Lincoln, Nebraska, did an article. She talked to a reporter and in a first-person perspective about what happened to her to keep him in. And somehow it's come up on my, he's on my Google search because I want to know if this guy comes out because I'm sure he's not happy with me.
Right.
And literally I found her name. And I called her because usually they don't give the names.
Yeah.
All those years. And we're talking about the difference between 1998 and 2000 and I think 14. I reached out to her and I said, "You saved my life. Like, I'm so sorry that you went through all that." And she went through a lot. She said she couldn't sleep.
So what was his like MO? Did he come up from behind?
He would come up from behind. He'd tell them that he had a knife. Sometimes they actually felt the knife. Sometimes they didn't. He would come up from behind. He affected a white male voice for the time. I mean, these are tricky topics to talk about now, but we're talking about this is how you can go to the testimony. It's literally, this is what they said. And they were looking for a white male in all of the other assaults and rapes. And she was the one who actually saw a little piece of his wrist to be able to tell that he was definitely a darker skinned man.
Yeah.
So she said that she had to sleep. Her father had to sleep at her house for the next 6 years. It took her 6 years for her to be able to sleep well. And I mean, I was just super grateful to her to even indulge my call. But I also
right when it happened, she went right to the police and
all of them did, but they couldn't connect it.
Right.
All of them did. They all reported it. That was also the saving grace.
So they understood that there was a similarity between these crimes.
Yes. This woman, I tell you, I wish I ran a studio. I wish I had the money to buy rights to this woman, the detective's story. But she really went through, and there had been the assault in Wisconsin, and she was like, this is weird on a college campus. Let me see if there's been any other thing in the local college campus. And, if you know anything about geography, they all those Midwesty states sit on top of each other.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. He just cultivated that whole little area.
What's crazy is that right around that same time, I remember I had this agent and they're like, you should go to this. It was for the Northwest, like NACA. And it was, so that area, to go to this like festival or whatever, and you're going to do your stand up, and then these buyers from all the schools will book you.
Yes.
And
National Association of Collegiate Activities.
Right. Okay. So I only got a couple bites. I really didn't get like a ton. Because I don't know, it just wasn't that it wasn't that good. And also, I think that I was thinking, like, your act has to apply to the college. It has to be very like college kid life stories, which really isn't the case. You just have to be funny, you know? Like, you just have to be funny. And even when I got older, they laughed the hardest at, like, my mom's stuff. They didn't, because they're young. And the people that go to that stuff are probably younger on the scale because they've got nothing to do and they're like, oh, there's a comedian tonight, But just like when I've spoken in colleges and stuff, they're kind of like it's not a great audience.
Right.
They're young. They're like, they don't know what they're doing. They're like awkward, whatever. So so that what I'm saying is he must have gone through that channel for the Midwest.
He stood there. You do then at those performances where you're performing to be bought by all these programmers, because every college has a student activities fee built in to their
and they have to spend the money. So if you can do colleges, at least it was in our day, it's very profitable.
I loved them. They worked out really well for me.
And he had a great thing going, because he would do the college and then the club. That's very smart.
And he won, I think it was $250,000 for the late '90s, or
for the Star Search show.
On Star Search, even if it was 100, I can't remember. I can't remember what he won. So he made that, and he was making money each night he committed these crimes. That's the other thing that just twisted my. Because as women, we have fought so hard to be paid equally in comedy, and it's really. I'm telling you, back then, it was a huge disparity. I didn't know how bad it was. I had no idea until recently how bad it was, until the pandemic, when I actually started talking with some of the guys and finally said, well, what do you make? Because they don't tell us so they can keep us down. Not just women, but it's not open.
Yeah.
Your fees are not an open, because there's such a sliding scale.
Right.
Right? But I found out that when I had more credits and more specials, more this than most of the guys, I was still only making 50 cents on the dollar. So the fact that this guy was getting paid a huge dollar amount to perform at a college, then assaulting a female, it was just, he just had a complete hatred. And if you listen to his act, he had a complete disregard for law enforcement. He was basically taunting people. I'm telling you, it's a movie. It's a movie that we should produce. Maybe we could produce this. This is our Lifetime movie. But literally, he was taunting law enforcement. He was using the same voice that he used. That was one of his biggest downfalls, is the few women that were musical, one was a professor, one was a student, they had amazing ears. So they could hear his voice. So the tone of his voice, they had to identify in court, and they used his stand-up when he would make that character of a white man that he called, and they were like, "That's it. That's the voice." And they identified him by that voice, long before they ever got to court.
Do you know if he had a proper defense attorney that tried to say that he was innocent, or was it a plea deal? Do you know any of that?
Well, there's no plea deals. I know that. I don't know. I'm sure he had a defense attorney, but I mean, he was nailed. He literally went from one state to the next state to the next state, and they went through the court cases. And
did they ever find out, or did you, when was the first time? Where does that, I always feel like that is, a gateway, when you follow these type of horrible men, it starts out, maybe they're peeping Toms. Then they sneak in the house and steal the underwear.
Yeah.
Then they start, assaulting the women. Then it leads to kidnapping or murder or whatever. And so here he got a younger girl. I'm just so curious about that. When did he realize, I could do this because he put a thing over his face, right?
Right. Well, everywhere. Laura, to be honest, Laura, my partner on the show, and actually the real police officer, really did some digging trying to figure out, and he had no criminal record from before.
Wow.
Nothing. And I, on the other end, I'm more the social person on our podcast, so I was digging to see if I could figure out anything with his family.
Yeah.
And here was the weird thing. He has family. Early on, you could find that there was a father, a mother, and a brother and a sister, but nothing. And the funny part about that is they weren't even around when he won the money. So, and you know how that goes, celebrity and fame and money brings relatives out of the woodwork. If you have $5 on television, there's a relative somewhere trying to get 15. So he literally, we couldn't find anything on him. So maybe they knew. Sometimes the families know more than, I don't know that they knew that he went to this level, but maybe he did weirdo stuff, and it was weirdo events, and the father was a military guy. They had moved around. There was no one kept tabs on this guy. I mean, the fact that he was dating a 17-year-old, it sounds horrific nowadays. I think the people look the other way because at the same time, Jerry Seinfeld was dating Shoshana and going to her prom. So I don't know.
I mean, that I noticed has been being brought up a lot more in on TikTok and whatnot, and it's crazy. It is crazy that happened. That he not only was he dating a girl that he met, allegedly is how they met. It's not alleged that they were dating. No. Alleged it was, they dated when she turned 18. Okay. But the story that got out there was that she was a senior in high school when they met. Like, he met her on a park bench or something. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
And then they started dating. And it was not a secret that he had an 18-year-old girlfriend when he was 38 while doing Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Like, she was on the red carpets with him and going. And she really was, so pretty, unique name.
Gorgeous.
Big boobs, big fluffy hair.
Designer of underwear, right? Didn't she do lingerie?
Yeah. But I think back then people were like, well, she's over 18, so who cares? Like, we weren't sophisticated enough to go, whoa. 17, 18, 20, this is too young to... Why is a man that's 20 years older than you interested in you when he is like the star of a show? Like, he knows what he's doing, and the grooming and everything.
We also left it to her family. We were like, well, not my daughter, but I mean, if that's what you want to do. Like, you know what I mean? I think that's kind of where we were more autonomous in the family unit. Where
and I don't even know if the roles were reversed. If I was like, if my parents were like fans of his comedy and I was 18 at the time and I was like, Mom, you'll never believe who I met last night. And he asked me out. And I'm like a freshman at USC or something. I think they would have been like, this is so exciting. I don't think they would have been like, absolutely not. This is wrong. Because, I mean, because of that, she had a great, it seemed to be that she got to be a designer. She got to meet all these people. I don't know where she is today.
We didn't understand imbalance of power.
Right.
Then.
That's what I'm saying.
We really didn't. You have to think back to the time. We knew it. I think we knew it. That's why this generation, our generation of women, we felt it was wrong. We understood the imbalance of power. We just had no voice to speak to it. And I
remember like dating an older guy, and they always tell you you're so mature, you're so bright for your age.
Yeah,
and to a young woman that is pretty, you love to hear that you're not just pretty.
Yeah.
You love to hear that you're mature, that you're smart, that you could hang, that you have great conversation. So it's like that is a way that they kind of get you.
Well, they don't
and
tell
nothing
you.
bad. I mean, in her defense and his, nothing bad happened. No, she moved on, and they broke up, and then when he met his current wife, that's also a juicy story. She had what I recall, she had a big wedding.
Just a month before, right? Or so?
Like 2 weeks before. Like, literally had a big wedding, came home from her honeymoon, met him at the gym, and hit it off.
Jerry slanging.
And left her husband of like a month to date him. But then, again, in both of their defense, they've been together 25 years.
Yeah, not a crime at all.
They have 3 grown kids.
Wonderful.
Maybe it was real love. And maybe she did go. Maybe she didn't ever want to walk down the aisle with the first husband, but it was a big Jewish wedding and a whole big thing, and they're in New York City. And then when she met him, it just was too much, and she's like, well, I'm not going, I'm going to do what I want to do.
Maybe they were meant to be.
Yeah.
It's funny. So we just didn't understand about, like, so when we say that Vince was with a 17-year-old, it just was more the norm of the time.
You said, was it out here? He was living in L.A.?
He was living, yeah.
So his base was L.A.?
Burbank.
Like, really trying to make it. Okay.
Burbank. Riverside in Burbank.
Yeah, probably going out on pilot auditions and everything else.
Yeah, living life, treating. See, the thing is, when people say, how was your interaction with him at the condo? He was really kind of rude to me. He was very dismissive of me. But I didn't take it that he was arrogant and maybe trying to hold things or didn't like women. I took it that he didn't like female comics. because I had been treated so poorly by so many in the industry.
Yeah.
So I just took it like, oh, he thinks I'm just gonna.
Chicks aren't funny.
Yeah, I'm like a magician. I'm gonna, or whatever it is that I am. I'm a prop act. So
Yeah.
So I was so used to being treated poorly, I didn't think that how dismissive he was. Which, thank God he was, and thank God I didn't care. There have been times in my life when people have been dismissive of me, and I was like, please like me, let's find common ground. I'm a great person, you got to know me. Thank God I was a little bit more strong. If I'd have met him at 17, 18, maybe I'd have been that way.
Yeah.
But by 26, 27,
well,
I was already
the
strong.
only time that something really weird like that happened to me, I never did the comedy condos because I didn't really start going on the road until I was already like an established name.
Right.
So however, except for 1 week in Vegas where I stayed at Harrah's and did that improv, and I didn't really do a lot of long gigs like that. But
because you were in LA,
right? But when you
had
talk about it, I'm like, wow, yeah, you would have really gotten good if you're doing Tuesday to Sunday. That's a lot of
3
stage
shows
time
on a Saturday.
Yeah.
I mean, and for someone like me, it's so weird because you started where most people end. I started in an open mic, Cleveland. You work your way up to be an MC, house MC. Then somebody wants to take you on the road, so you're an MC all over the country at these comedy clubs, gig after gig after gig, and you don't go home for months at a time, really, because you can't financially afford it because they don't pay you much.
Yeah.
And then you work your way up, and then you're a feature because now you got a half hour, so make a little bit more, so you feel like, oh, I'm really balling. And then I didn't move to Los Angeles till I was already an established headliner. So it's just a different thing.
So my crazy condo story is I never stayed at the condos. I stayed at the one in Denver.
Beautiful condo.
Owned by Wendy. That was the only one that I would.
We love Wendy.
And so, but then they said, oh, they redid the condo at La Jolla Comedy Store. And it's right on the beach. And I had a opener coming with me. Her name's Christine Letterman. And I was like, oh, cool. Let's do that. I don't want to pay for a hotel. We have 2 rooms, kitchen in between, living room. Great. And we were doing a couple nights, a full weekend. So anyway, the last night of it, I said goodnight to her. She was going to have to leave early in the morning because she had to fly back to Denver. And I was just laying on my bed, and the door was I'm laying on my stomach, and the door to my room, opens up to the living room area, and then right is the front door. And I heard the front door shut. And I was like, that's weird. And I saw a light go on, and then... And I remember going, something told me, God, it's nothing, don't say anything, don't say anything. And I was like, I should probably call out to Christine, what is she doing? Why she wouldn't put her suitcase outside? Why, even if she was putting her bag in the living room, why was she shutting the main front door, which that's what it sounds like. But I told myself, oh, it just must have been her door or whatever. And I go to bed, and the next morning she's gone. And as I'm driving home from San Diego, she calls me, and she's now home. And she goes, did you go out the front door in the middle of the night or something? And I'm like, oh my God, no, that wasn't you. You didn't, after we said goodnight, I go, did you ever go outside of your room? And she said no. And I go, neither did I.
Oh my God.
I go, so we start talking, and we realize that somebody that either had the key or the code or whatever, they're supposed to change the code every week, but maybe they didn't because, oh, this is the code to get in the condo, like you would in Airbnb. Somebody must have come in, and either they needed to crash there, maybe they didn't realize we were staying there, or maybe they came for something far more sinister. I don't know.
Wow.
But I was like, oh my God. So then I start thinking, what if? What if I heard something, and I'm like, what are you doing? And I opened the door and saw the guy. And we think it could have been this guy that was kind of flirty with her.
Oh, my.
That said, what are you doing after? Because there's open mics that you can go to after. And you can go with me. And he was like a waiter that was also trying to doing stand up. And I'm like, do you think it was him, or is it somebody that works there that needed a place to crash, saw our bags and things, and then was like, oh fuck.
Yeah, they're here.
And then left. Either way, whatever the intention was, my mind starts to go. And I'm like, oh my God, what if one of us was like, what the fuck are you doing? And then the guy who's obviously, not obviously, but what if he wasn't right in the brain? And instead of being like, oh my God, don't tell anybody, I didn't know anyone was staying here, I'm leaving, or whatever. What if he panicked and then panics and then tries to kill you? And then I'm like, what if you had heard what was going on? Like, what would you, and then we talked about it. Then we're like, what would you have done if you heard a struggle or something? Would you have the wherewithal to, like, kind of like the Idaho murders, would you have the wherewithal to stay quiet in your room or go out the window, or like what?
I don't know. I think that there's never a right answer. I've learned that from Laura, who police officer of all those years. There's never a right answer. You have to figure out what is worth. I'm a fighter. I will always fight. I think ever since that night, for me, it really changed my perspective. I'm always looking for an exit, a weapon. Even in a hotel room, even in the 5-star hotel room, I sleep with an iron next to my bed. So if someone comes, I can at least grab it and hit them. All you need to do is try to create space. That's what you need to do. You don't have to take someone down. You just have to try to create as much possible space, but sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just have to figure out what works. I think the condos were really unsafe for women back then. They were unsafe for guys, quite frankly, too. I don't know that they faced the same problems that we faced, but there were a lot of condos that I went to that they didn't have keys, that literally they would announce on stage, oh, the comics are staying at the, at the downtown apartments, and, so then everybody would know that the comics are going to be gone from 7 till 10 o'clock. So you can go in. Also, some of the comics.
Go in and what?
And
rob?
You could go in and rob them, wait for them, whatever,
Yeah.
break in, do whatever. Some of the comics I stayed with, quite frankly, there's a famous story of I loved my sweet Mitch Hedberg. He was a great guy, but also known as a well-known drug addict. And I'd go on the road with Mitch quite a bit. He was super to me and like a brother when he was clear. But he was known to, he had a community. People would stay with him, and I'm straight-laced, whatever.
Stay from the people they met at the comedy club, or he'd bring people along.
They just kind of show up. And I don't know whether they meant to meet him there. He met him. He knew him. But there'd be like a guy on the couch.
Because of the drug
Yeah,
world?
there was always like a guy on the couch in that, how there's always some high person. But and one night he had a kind of a party, and I was like, okay, I'm going to stay. And I was really lucky because I had made friends with one of the waitresses. So I was like, can I come stay at your apartment? And I stayed because they had a big party, and there were girls and strippers, and stripper at the house is a hooker and whatever. And not for Mitch, but the people that were with him. And I came back and my entire suitcase was gone. Everything. Not just like a shirt or two. My entire suitcase. And I was devastated. And he was such a kind-hearted person. He gave me like $100, which was like $1,000 back then to me, to go buy some clothes. But the very next night, this guy shows up, and he had on, I had this really cute T-shirt from a cheer camp that I had taken in college, and it said whatever, cheer camp, whatever. And this guy had on, and I go, that's unbelievable. That's my shirt. He stole and that's my cheer shirt. And he goes, that is unbelievable. He goes, I can't believe he went to cheerleading camp.
And then you weren't even going to ask for it back.
Yeah, no, I don't want it.
Oh
then.
my
It was
God.
done.
Okay, crazy. All right, I also want to talk about, this is a crime that you may remember. It was very publicized. It was a Netflix doc, very well received doc called Evil Genius.
Yes.
The true story of America's most diabolical bank heist. And this is to remind you guys, this was where this guy had a bomb collar, and he was just a pizza delivery man, and it was like you need to give me this money, otherwise, what was it?
So the story is it happened in 2004. And full disclosure before we get started.
Yeah.
The weirdest thing for me, I now live 40 minutes and go to these exact places on a regular basis where this crime happened. But at the time in 2004, I was living out here in Los Angeles. And what happened is there was a gentleman named Brian who was a pizza delivery driver. He literally was working at this pizzeria. He got a phone call. He didn't. The guy who owned the pizzeria didn't understand it and handed the phone to Brian. Completely happenstance. He takes the phone, gets the order, goes to deliver it, and it's an address that he's never seen before. And it turns out it's like in this field by a radio tower. And there are people there, and there's a car. Now, he says, this is what Brian had said.
The pizza guy.
Yes, the pizza guy, that 4 African-American men jumped him, put the collar on him, and said, it's a bomb. Go rob this bank. And when you're done with that, you have to go get another clue at McDonald's that'll tell you how to take the collar off, and then we'll get in touch with you and get the money from you. So he goes to the bank. He asks for $200,000, whatever. It's like an exorbitant amount of money. The lady only has $8,700 on her that she can get him, the teller. He gets it. She clearly alerts that she's getting robbed by a bank, and he's like taking his time. Meanwhile, they handed him also a cane that had a gun in it. So like it's like this long cane and it has a gun, it looks like some kind of prop from a 1930s film. He walks down the parking lot with his $8,700, and they said he seemed kind of like he was cool. He wasn't panicked or whatever. And the cops are there. And they're surrounding him. And he's like, this is a bomb. This is a bomb. And they're like, sit down. And, he goes, no, I got to go to McDonald's, which is, if you look at the street, McDonald's is about, I don't even know, like 0.2 miles away. It's 2 shopping centers over. He's like, I got to go over there, my other clue, so I can get this bomb off. And he starts freaking out. They then realize that it has to be true that it's a bomb, but they're not letting him go to McDonald's, and no one goes over to investigate the McDonald's clue, as far as I know. And
so he's just, and they don't want to be too close.
So they're surrounding him with cars, and he's sitting in the ground in the parking lot at Eyeglass World, and sure enough, boom, the bomb explodes, and Brian dies, and it's this crazy, crazy story. So they're trying to figure out, wait a second, who did this to this guy? Is this true? And it goes unsolved for a long time. And then one day, this guy, his name was William Rothstein. Now, I knew him as Bill.
Right.
Because Bill was a huge comedy fan. And Bill used to come to the comedy club. It's now called Keller's Comedy and Magic and Keller's Magic and Comedy, which I'll be there December 5th. But Bill used to come to the club when it was called Juniors. And Bill was a massive man, 6'5", huge, Grizzly Adams, long beard, would wear overalls like Rob from Love Island with just like a tank top. But he was a genius. Everybody kept saying that this guy, Bill, was a genius. He was like this weirdo professor who didn't work anymore, hoarder, but spoke 5 languages and would come see, he loved comedy. He would come see me and speak to me in Italian and bring me loaves of bread. Well, Bill happens to call the police and tells the police, I know who set up Brian, the pizza guy, the pizza bomber. It was this woman, what's her name? Marjorie?
Her name is, hold on. It said wait, hold on. Let me just see where it was. Real life people in the movie were, Evil Genius were Brian Wells, the pizza delivery man who died from the collar bomb, and his alleged mastermind, Marjorie Dell Armstrong.
Yeah. So, I know who was behind the whole pizza bomber thing. It's this woman named Marjorie. We used to date years ago, but right now I have her ex-boyfriend in my freezer because she killed him. And this whole thing just starts to unravel. And apparently Marjorie had this just crazy life of these men would follow her and do everything for her. And she felt like she had been left out of her father's will. So she hired this one guy to go try to kill her father. And that didn't happen. And then she killed her. That was the boyfriend that she had
attractive?
killed. No, not by this time.
Okay.
No, she wasn't. But apparently she did something to these men. She had, you ever see those women that you're like, oh my God, they just have this something about them. And she was a evil genius. She was brilliant. And so was Bill. And she and Bill stayed in touch for evil crimes. She realized that her father wasn't going to leave her money. And she couldn't kill him to get the money. So she figured she needed a patsy to rob a bank for her. She thought robbing a bank would be a smart way, but she clearly can't rob a bank.
So then Marjorie and Bill, the comedy fan, came up with the scheme to just get some random pizza guy.
To rob the bank. Now, Bill came up supposedly with the idea to make the bomb, but Bill dies of cancer. So we don't know. Like he says, yeah, I made it, but I didn't put it on him. That was all Marjorie. That was all. I didn't know she was doing that. I know she wanted to rob a bank. But then he dies. So then they start looking at her current boyfriend. And Marjorie's current boyfriend frequented a prostitute whose other client was this guy, the pizza delivery guy. And she said, the prostitute says that Marjorie's current boyfriend said, we need a patsy. We need a guy who will do this for us. Who can you think of? Who would do this for us? Who's slow in the head, but maybe would and I don't mean I don't mean a disability.
Just like simpleton. Like a simpleton.
Great word.
Yeah.
Great word. And needs the money, but won't try to grab all the money, won't try to bribe us afterwards.
Yeah. Just
so
do what
this
he's told.
prostitute says, what about this pizza delivery guy I know, Brian? Allegedly. This is all allegedly because then the second boyfriend dies of cancer. Okay? So he's not able to testify against Marjorie. But apparently Brian supposedly...
The pizza man.
Yes, the guy who died. So now we've got 3 people. We are dead. The pizza delivery guy dies in a bomb.
His head blew up.
Bill dies of cancer after he dimes Marjorie. And now Marjorie's second boyfriend dies of cancer. Okay, I mean, these are real things. But they say that Brian was allegedly telling people, oh, yeah, I know them. We hang out all the time. We're doing this. This is a story we made up. I'm going to help them rob. But he did not know that it was a real bomb. He was so simple that they told him they were putting...
The pizza guy didn't know.
Yes, the pizza guy did not know that they were
because
putting a real bomb.
Because he was going to act like a victim, but he was really in on it.
He supposedly. We never really find out the answer because everybody who is part of the story, with the exception of Marjorie, dies of cancer. Marjorie gets time because of the dead guy in Bill's freezer.
And why was her ex-boyfriend in her other ex-boyfriend's freezer?
She tried to say he committed suicide. That was one of her.
Yeah. Well, why wouldn't you just say he committed suicide?
Yeah, but who's going to, that's.
And how do you, I guess he was big enough that he could pick up a body and put it in a freezer.
Yeah, but even if you could, you don't wrap yourself.
Recently we were at Costco and my son said, oh my God, Mom, this is like a freezer for a body.
That's hysterical.
And I really had never seen one. I had really never seen one except in a movie, and I understand people have those big freezers like for gaming or whatever.
I have. We always,
and I've seen it on Sister Wives, like you buy one big fucking cow or you save all the meat or I don't know. But I've never seen it out here in California except at this Costco. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. Like a whole body could fit in there.
Well, and now Marjorie's doing time, but it's just putting the story together is so bizarre because there was never.
So wait, when did the guy was coming to see the comedy stuff and you knew him?
Yeah.
And so he was going to the clubs after this thing went down and the guy's head blew up?
Before, after, during.
And then what made him then go tell the police, actually?
I guess he got mad at Marjorie. I think he thought that he was going to get back together with her. And it turns out that she went out and got a new boyfriend who actually was also seeing a prostitute at the same time. So he was going to get back at her, and he was going to tell on her, and he was going to. So that's the problem with this story. Is the only person left to really tell the truth is Marjorie, and she is an evil genius.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that story, how it was like when you're watching that doc, you think it's something else. Now, this is kind of interesting because this is like a Hollywood money story. I had recently on my Juicy Scoop show a guy that was the financial manager for Alanis Morissette and everything, and stole money because he was a gambling addict, but also dealt with drugs, but was like living this other life of being like this straight-laced manager of musicians and, doing T-ball and all this stuff, but just got wrapped up in this world and stole money from her. And this does happen recently. There was another agent, actually, Chris Frangiola. There was a couple people that were at this agency recently. They looked into him. He's stealing money and not paying people, like a kind of like a
Billy Joel.
What's the Billy Joel?
Oh, did you just see the Billy Joel
No,
doc?
I have to watch that. But was it?
So apparently his first wife was his manager. But then as they separate and she's like, I don't want to be your manager anymore. I don't want to be your wife anymore. I can't do this. And she tries to set him up with real managers. And he says to her, I want your brother. She's like, even she said, my brother? Like, he's not. Well, I guess the brother, Billy's already established. He's already past the stranger. He's past glass houses. So he's got tons of money. He just really needs an incoming call taker, basically, right? He's not, you got attorneys to negotiate contracts. So he just really needed a guy that would set up the tours and stuff. And then the tour manager does the day-to-day, so he just needed the guy to take the calls. Well, apparently 20 years later, or whatever, 15 years later, he's married to Christy Brinkley, and he goes to buy, they would go these places, and someone would come up to them, and they drove down the coast, and they go, oh, don't you own a house over there? And he goes, no, I don't know. That's funny. You guys think that and then they went to the next place, and oh my God, don't you bought that house? You bought the old Plum's house. And she was like, I just thought that was weird. Why does everybody think we own a house on the Eastern Seaboard? Apparently this guy, the manager,
the financial manager,
but also former brother-in-law,
was
stealing all of Billy Joel's money and buying these houses. And so when Billy went to buy something, but Billy didn't believe it. He was like, no, I trust him. He went to buy something, and he couldn't buy anything. There was something, whatever it was something little, like a you know what I mean? It's like
a car
small
or
thing.
Something. Yeah.
Something for him that was little. For the rest of us, I'm like, well, whatever.
Yeah.
And he realized his credit was bad, and it's like, wait, I'm 12 albums deep into this.
Yeah.
I'm Billy Joel. I'm Christy Brinkley, Billy Joel.
Yeah.
And he had sold like a lot of money. A lot. They never really say how much, but they say, probably more than half. Like Billy, that's when he started going back out on the road hard and touring, because he was like, he couldn't, that's all he knew how to do is just tour.
And just make it back up. It happened to Margaret Cho.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, in her first book, she shared about that or maybe it wasn't in her book, maybe she told me, but she definitely had a manager, and she just kept doing all these gigs, and the manager was like, bought a house in Malibu, and was like, and because when you're a creative person, you are like, good, yeah, I don't want to worry about all that stuff.
But you trust, too. It's like,
you trust,
it's symbiotic. If I win, you win. That's how it's supposed to be. I can't imagine.
So now comes to a story that happened with you recently, working at Sherry Shepard's TV show as a writer. Can you tell what happened there?
Yeah, well, it happened it's happened before to other people. You don't get a check. You're right. You don't get a check, and that's okay. It's not your friend's fault that it's the head of the show. It's a corporation. People are corporations. So my manager calls the accounting department. The accounting department, a guy named Michael, says, "Oh, we were on vacation. There was a little glitch. We'll get out the check." Now we're getting paid every 2 weeks, so 2 weeks go by. Then next, oh my gosh, we sent your check out, but we got it back. Now I live in a small town, and there's 2 streets by my name. Like, you know what I mean? Like the name, I live on a street that has, there's another exact same street that has the same name. So I'm like, it was like here in LA, there was Rodeo and Rodeo. Remember that? So I'm like, okay, that could have, so now we're a month in. And then the next 2 weeks go by and there's not another check. And he's like, oh, we're having a banking glitch. Now, my manager's talking to the accounting. Who else are you supposed to talk to at this point? And then it was 2 months in, I called the executive producer of the show, who was a friend, because I didn't want to bother Sherry with it. She's an amazing person, and I knew she would take it to heart, which she ultimately did, and she made sure that made it right. But I said to the executive producer, I said, I want you to know I'm not gotten paid. And she was like, what? And I said, yeah, for 2 months. She goes, 2 months? And everybody says, why don't you tell me? But the thing is you don't want to stop the flow of it.
Right.
You don't want to make it a problem.
And you believed him. There was a hang up, and it's not like you're, going to be homeless, but yeah, you want your money.
Yeah, you assume that it's not the fire festival.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You assume you're going to get paid. And I don't want to make it. My friend Sherry had enough on her plate.
Right.
She was busy. She was working. She's managing 150 people and her son. And so I said, I just didn't want to make a big deal of it. But this is getting weird. Now I know, I'm no dummy. Now he's glad handling us. Well, they do some investigation, and internally then the production company gets into it, and the bigwigs go, wait a second. Turns out he wasn't paying the hairdresser, and he wasn't paying and he kind of Ponzi schemed people who were contract players, people who would invoice. He would pay this one this time and this one the next time, and then switch it around. And everybody, it seems, when they started digging in, they'd have like a 2 to 3 month period where they didn't get paid, and then they'd get all their money, but then somebody else wouldn't get it.
Right.
So the production company says to them, hey, Michael, we need to see your books right now. This is ridiculous. And he said, listen, it's a Friday. It's the afternoon. There is not a problem. We've had a lot of banking issues. We've had a lot of just misplaced issues. Granted, I've made some mistakes, but it's not the way it seems. Let me just get everything together. And how about Monday, we'll get a full report. And he doesn't come into work on Monday. And no one's thinking anything. I mean, whatever. But he does no call, no show. And then somebody, I don't know if it was that afternoon or the next day, they do a wellness check. And he killed himself.
Yeah, he ended his life, yeah.
But he had stolen more than like $4.3 million from this production company. Not Sherry personally, but this whole production company that has other productions. That wasn't just her show. Possibly.
Do they ever know what he spent it on? That's what I'm always like, where did the money go? Like with the guy that I interviewed, it was gambling. It was gambling and coke.
Maybe.
It wasn't like buying another house or like, I always wonder about that too with Mazoff.
Yeah.
I mean, he did live a fancy life. But that story is so crazy. He was like never investing anything.
It's so weird how these people do this kind. Look at Dane Cook.
Yes.
What a survivor story. Dane makes
his brother,
all this
right?
money. Right. All of this money. And literally, I don't know all the details, but his brother is his accountant. Like, you want to employ your family. So you want to say, hey, if I win, you win. Like, that's the mentality. That's what good people do. You want to bring it in. Celine Dion gave each of her brothers and sisters $1 million so they could all be millionaires. There's nothing worse than being in Vegas or at a gambling casino and you've lost everything and your friend is winning and you're like, oh my God, what about me? You're supposed to split and give it to them and go, let's all be happy and get stuff done. But Dane let his brother be his accountant and he stole his money. And then what happens? I mean, people that's the beauty of comedy. It's the beauty of artists. They can go back out. They don't lose their talent. You can't really steal their talent. Well, people do steal talent, by the way.
Yeah.
I got Okay, but anyway, different story.
You can steal jokes, but you can. But the good news is that you can always.
We can always write new jokes.
You always have new stories. You always have new things happening for you. Yeah.
But it's just a really sad thing. There's so much underlying crime in what goes on to be creative.
Yeah.
And who knew that it would go literally? I mean, look what we've covered today, from Vince Champ and the most prolific serial rapist that has ever been on television, and he was so beloved. Like, he was so beloved. He had the world by the tail, to the fact that they take money from, good people like Dane Cook and Sherry Shepard. Not from them. Well, Dane's personally, but Sherry from her production company.
Right.
So the things you can't control.
And that's also a thing that men will, when the gig is up, they do end their life more than, like, you don't really hear about women, that if women do a financial crime, it doesn't seem like they go the route of ending their life the way oftentimes men do. Like, they weren't depressed. They were just stuck in a criminal thing. Yeah. And then they're just like, well, this is just all too embarrassing and shameful and whatever. There was recently a story about this pretty influencer, and her husband was in this whole financial nightmare, but she was still an influencer, having a place and a penthouse in Manhattan and the house in the Hamptons, and posting about her lovely life and fancy things and everything. And he ended his life, and the articles were so much about her.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, she, if she wasn't all about the money, maybe he wouldn't have felt like he had to steal to keep her in the lifestyle. And maybe he wouldn't have felt that he had to end his life because the lifestyle would have ended.
Yeah. Isn't that what they said about,
I'm like, why is it her fault?
Beverly Hills? The Beverly Hills housewife whose husband killed himself?
Armstrong, Taylor Armstrong he was abusive to her. They were divorced, but he was in a financial mess.
Yeah.
But it was I think yes, I do think part of the financial mess was of being in a bad place, and then also that your whole image is about money and all of that, and you don't want people to know the truth, that you weren't talented in financial investing. Yeah. You were a fraud. You did lie.
I've been rich and I've been poor, and rich is better, and poor doesn't change who you are.
Right.
So, it's nice to be medium right now. I get bills paid, but I think that women don't tend to kill themselves in those financial things simply because they might find someone else that believes them.
Yeah.
There's a level of a man who's just like, come on, darling, who can't think. Like, my father, here's a perfect example. My father was an amazing man, but I am a tough girl. I wasn't a crier. My brother's first wife of many cried all the time. That's how she manipulated, with crying and tears. So he would do anything. Oh, okay, whatever. So I think sometimes women roll the dice. When you have that scam gene, you're like, well, there might be someone else left to scam. There might be someone else that we can try to. That woman we spoke about, Marjorie, she's getting marriage offers in prison.
I'm sure.
I mean, that's the dating show people should have, not when they get out. How about what's going on the inside?
They do. There is that show.
There is one?
There is. I used to get really into it, but then I just felt they were getting too gross.
It's all gross. And I sit there and I say,
Love After Lockup.
No, that's what that's after lockup. I'm talking about what's going on inside.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Who cares about what happens afterwards? They're doing it. If you are single and you're lonely, commit a crime and go to jail, and there will be someone who wants to date you. That's where you will find the love of your life. Because ask the Menendez brother, ask everybody.
Yes. Well, I'm so glad you came out and you're here, and we got to do this in person. You. And your podcast is called The Cop and the Comedian, And you also are performing live. You always are on
Yes.
tour. So where can people follow you and find you?
Pescatelli.com. Just go to my Insta. That'd be great. It'd be nice to have
And your Insta is?
Tammy Pescatelli.
Okay.
That'd be awesome. I'd like to have just even a little bit of. I'm not even an influencer. I'm just like the flu right now. The flu.
Thank you so much. Thank you.